So sorry about this, but this is gonna be a filler video. We didn't have any gigs in last month, so there's no gig log this week. Sorry about that. But there's a lot of really good stuff coming, so we're gonna make up for it. Don't you worry. So we got some ETXs. We're renting these for Cedar Cliffs Minithon, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, and we went to listen to them today, and the guy decided he was fine with letting us take them with us when we left because he doesn't use them and it saves us a trip back. He's about a half an hour drive. It's not that big of a deal, but it saves a decent bit of hassle. So, because we have them, we're going to be doing some tests and some listening tests and stuff. We found online that there's no videos hardly of these speakers, so we thought we'd put some video up showing their sound quality. And we have a pair of ZLXs up top for reference, because obviously with that microphone you're not going to be able to tell exactly what they sound like, but if you know what a ZLX sounds like, you can compare the two. So cool. For this super scientific test, we're going to have these speakers set up like this. We have our mixer here. We're setting up the camera on a tripod right there with this approximate distance, so it has good like correlation and stuff. And then back here we're running all of the speakers at negative 20 decibels.
In music mode?
Yeah, in music mode. All of them are negative 20. None of them are crossed over at anything. They're all running, they're full range, so you have an idea of the distance and whatnot. It's not going to be a loud test, it's going to be a quiet test. Okay, so from where the tripod is, I tried to level out the speakers to 70 decibels averaging, and in order to do that, I had to turn up the ZLXs quite a bit. ZLXs is the control room knob, and the ETX is on the main mix. So that is the volume difference I had to do in order to get them to the same volume.
So what do you think about them, Doug? What do you think about the ETX? What's your opinion on the matter?
I think that, well, first of all, obviously the 35Ps have a lot more bass. They're a three-way. They have 15-inch driver. Of course they're going to have more bass. But beyond that, the treble in the ZLXs kind of has like a sound, whereas the 35-piece treble has more like a snap. And I like that sound a little bit more. I feel like a lot more people might like that sound more, but it's very opinionated. The ZLXs still sound good. There's definitely a sound difference. The 35Ps definitely sound better, I would say, and clearly they get louder, so.
I just flat out think the ETXs sound better. They're just like all around better. Everything about them is better. The mid-range is so much better. It's like, there's no way to explain it other than if you've been to a concert. If you haven't been to a concert before, you won't know what this sounds like. But if you have, it has that super mid-range punch to it. The ZLX doesn't have that. The ETX has a dedicated mid-range driver. The treble is so much more smooth. The ZLXs start to fall off drastically around 14, 15K. So I feel like EV did a lot of boosting in that range to try to make up for it, and now it sounds just a little bit harsh on the high end. Normally we run the treble turned down to -3, -4 dB at a gig. With the ETXs, you wouldn't need to do that. It just sounds way better. The bass is formidable with them, honestly. You might be able to go by without a sub at a smaller gig, or like in a smaller room. It's not going to hit nearly as low as like an ETX sub, but you might be able to get away with it if your music doesn't have super low content. If you just put the same input power, like the same input voltage into both of them, there's about a 7 decibel difference between the ETX and the ZLX. So like if the ETX is doing 100 decibels at unity gain, the ZLXs will be doing 93 decibels. That's a pretty big difference. Also, another thing we found out, both the ETX and the ZLX at idle with no music playing through them pull like, the ZLX pulls like 15 watts from the wall, and the ETX pulls like 16 watts from the wall. And to get the ETXs up to 100 decibels at 1 meter, it pulls about 17 watts from the wall. And then we got it up to 110 decibels at 1 meter, and it was pulling 40 to 50 watts from the wall. So we have not driven these to limit yet. There is no way I'm going to do it in this house. It's just not going to happen. And yeah, I don't know what volume they limit at, but we'll be testing that at Cedar Cliff Minithon. So you can look forward to that too, if you're interested on these speakers. So that's that. Sorry about not having a gig log this week, but it's been a slow January. It happens. We got good stuff coming.